switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the campaign. Now, you have no political experience, so what's your take on that? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that an advantage, disadvantage?
I think it's a very good thing. Law enforcement is not a political, it shouldn't be a politician's game. It should be a law enforcement leader. It's political by nature just because it's an elected position. However, the sheriff has to work with everybody, has to work with all the elected officials, has to work with frontline people, other agencies. So if you're a politician and you're just handing out endorsements and making comments on laws and things like that that you don't have jurisdiction over, you're hurting your cause. And so no political experience, I think, is an advantage because I have no ties to any of the corruption and the negligence that's been going on in MCSO.
So you're running as a Republican.
Yes.
How are you going to run this campaign? Raise money, just go through the process. What's kind of your theory, I guess you could say, as you go forward from here?
Well, I want to show the people that I can run a campaign just as well as I can run an office. I don't need a massive war chest like the current sheriff seems to think he needs. I don't need that. All I need is some donations so that I can get my message out. And it's the quality of the message that will win the day rather than the amount of money in the war chest.
So that could be maybe the biggest challenge. I think a lot of people are going to say, Lieutenant Mike Stauffer, who? If someone were to ask, who is Lieutenant Mike Stauffer, what would be your answer? What would you tell a voter? What you stand for, who you are?
I would tell them that I am I'm telling you, I am a dedicated law enforcement professional of 28 years who believes in American law enforcement as a unique to the world in that we are part of the community, and that's how American law enforcement should operate, as part of the community, and I truly believe that. Only cooperation between the community, the elected officials, and all the police agencies are we going to truly have true public safety.
Now, based on your career, had been in New York and in Scottsdale, if I were to go and pull your personnel files, what would that say about you as an officer?
That I've done a great job over my 28 years. I've had many assignments. Like I told you, I've been everything from patrol to canine. I've worked in narcotics. As a lieutenant, I've worked in the Office of the Chief. I supervised the Internal Affairs Office, the Public Information Office, and the Budget Office. So I have a very varied career, a lot of experience that I can put to work as the sheriff.
In terms of the campaign, some of the campaigns with the sheriff have gotten negative or ugly. He's been known to go after opponents, political opponents particularly. Does that worry you? What would you do if he tries to come after you politically?
Well, I would tell him we're both adults and we shouldn't be throwing mud at each other and we shouldn't be trying to dig up all that personal stuff. It should be a debate on the issues and how we're going to run the agency as the sheriff. If he comes after me personally, I will defend myself, but I will take I can take whatever he brings on.
Okay. So now, without getting too much into Scottsdale itself, professionally as a lieutenant, I'm sure there's been some crossover working with the sheriff's office. What's that been like? Has it been as professional as it should be?
At my level and at the frontline level, the sergeant level, yes, I've gotten along with sheriff's officials, sheriff's deputies just fine. We've operated together on quite a few different things. Yeah, we've gotten along.
Okay. Over the years, we've heard a lot of things about what's happening inside the sheriff's office. Now we see this report released by the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. Have you read the report?
I've read parts of it, yes.
And based on what you've read, what do you think?
I think it didn't go far enough. I think Sheriff Babu did not go the extra mile and find out what the sheriff's responsibility was in all this. I find it hard to believe that the sheriff was deceived, especially after telling everybody for the last 17 years that he's in charge and nothing happens in his office without his knowledge. So I think Sheriff Babu kind of sidestepped the main issue and just worked on the former chief deputy and a commander and two commanders. I would have liked to have seen a more thorough investigation.
There was a lot in that report, you know, from sex crimes to retaliation, etc. Taking the job as the sheriff, if you're elected, there could be a lot that you have to take on. I guess if you're elected, where do you even begin? How do you even start that process of going through and evaluating a sheriff's office that's been accused of so much?
Well, I would have to get in there and look at what the structure is before I really comment on how I would restructure or how I would even begin. I'd have to get in there and see to what extent I have to clean house. And I know I'm going to have to, especially at the upper levels. I'll have to have an office that people know that everybody that's working for me can be trusted with their welfare.
Based on that, do you think the public trusts the sheriff's office, or do you think there's a growing gap there?
I see a growing lack of confidence from the public. As I've been campaigning and meeting people out in Maricopa County, I'm hearing that it's time for a change because the showmanship, the reality show theatrics that the sheriff currently uses are wearing very thin. The wasteful spending is starting to become an issue. The tanks and the machine guns and the celebrity deputies have all distracted from the real issue of crime suppression, crime prevention, crime investigation, and smooth and efficient jail operations. So I'm thinking that the people have lost confidence in Sheriff Arpaio at this point.
Maybe it's a kind of a funny question, but as a lieutenant, have you ever had a need for a tank or a machine gun?
I
said as a lieutenant in the field, have you ever had a need for a tank or a machine gun?
No, I've never, even in New York City, I didn't need a tank or a machine gun.
Has Arpaio's camp contacted you at all yet, or has there been any message between you and anybody in their campaign or their office?
Well, not directly. The sheriff has made some comments to some of my coworkers. To one of my coworkers, as a matter of fact, we met on an elevator last year, and the comment was, tell that guy over there in Scottsdale that I've got $2.3 million in my campaign fund. That was his message to me.
What's your message back?
Why do you need $2.3 million? Isn't it a shame that a local sheriff's election needs the amount of funds that are taken to run senatorial campaigns? It seems kind of outlandish and wasteful.
Last question for you, and I guess it's maybe the most important question, especially with everything that's going on. Why do you want this job?
That's a great question. I want this job because the people of Maricopa County deserve a professional law enforcement leader. That's what they deserve. And I want to provide that to them. I know that I can do this job. I have the qualifications necessary to take on this job. I am totally disconnected. I'm disconnected from any of the corruption that's involved there, and I can provide for the people of Maricopa County a professional 21st century law enforcement agency, and that's why I want the job.